How do we address the dorsal hump of the nose? I frequently hear it's just a hump or it's just a little bump on the nose. It doesn't matter so much if it's just a little or if it's a lot. We still have to address it in the same way and in the proper way. And here's why addressing it in the improper or the fast way can be a problem. What happens is the bump is made of bone and cartilage, usually of various combinations. Some people more cartilage, some more bone. Usually it's a combination, and the bump usually happens around this area over here where the bone and the cartilage meet. So it's very simple to say that, hey, we can just take off this entire bridge. But the nose is made in a very special way. We're built with a lot of tiny little nuances in mind where we have special structural integrity, and these are all very important parts, so you can't just cut this off without repercussions. Here is kind of a magnified model of the same thing without the tip cartilages. Here's our septum in the middle, here are two upper lateral cartilages, and here are our nasal bones. So imagine if we were just to go in and take all of this off, kind of like this. Well, right there. This is going to create a problem. That looks very different now. It's going to create an open roof here. And don't forget, these are nasal bones right here. So these are going to be rigid. These are cartilages, and they're weak. They actually will then collapse down on in here, and the bones will have an open roof. So what do we have to do in those cases? We need to, this whole breaking the bone part, we need to create breaks in these areas here in order to bring the bones in. So hopefully I could show you that here. And we make these variable breaks. And so the bones can come in like this. So this is the bone breaking part. The cartilages. This is where things get really difficult because the cartilages were attached and now you've cut away all of this. I actually don't like to cut them away along with everything. What I like to do is first separate these cartilages, cut off only the septum to the height we want. Now we have cartilage over here, and we could do a few different things with this excess. But what's important is you can't just let these float down. They're going to do this. And we've all seen these really overly thin collapsed noses. This also leads to a lot of really bad functional problems known as internal valve collapse. So what we do with this is we need to support this. Sometimes you can just bring these back and tie them in, especially if it's a really, really small reduction. But typically, one way to support them is we take cartilage from the middle part of the septum and we do these called spreader grafts. And we put these down underneath over here. And that creates a lot of strength and integrity. So if you've ever heard spreader grafts, that's what this is. We put these underneath here and we support the septum and how these upper lateral cartilages attach. Another thing, especially if we did it the correct way, is if we have extra cartilage, we don't even need to. We can sometimes bend these over on themselves. And this is called a spreader flap or auto spreader graft. And when we tie these in, that gives strength as well as support and integrity to this valve. So the point is not exactly how you're doing it. Sometimes the surgeon will decide intraoperatively during the surgery what the best way is. But the point is you can't just cut this off and call it a day. This, oh, just shave a little bit off the top. You can't just shave a little bit off the top. I mean, you can, but you're going to end up with some big time issues. You may not even see those issues initially, but you may see them years down the line when the skin really thins out. So you need to make sure that the bones are broken in the right areas, that they're brought into the right amount, and everything is shaved and filed down nicely. This is a much harder thing to do than it sounds. You also want to make sure that the bones aren't so broken that the bones collapse inward. That's another very important thing to watch out for. And then the cartilages. This is where I see the most amount of issues when I'm doing these revisions. I typically see these completely not addressed. Sometimes I see them more cut out even than the septum, and I'll find little remnants and pieces of these floating around where I have to then restructure this area. But it's not just taking this off. You have to take this, you have to separate everything. You have to reduce the septum. Then you have to re-support these either by themselves or autograft, or if you're using spreader grafts, but you need to make sure that you give this attention. And these spreader graft techniques, they take time, they take effort, they take finesse. So it's not just reducing this. And we're not saying this in a way of, oh, we need to do so much work. You really do need to do work in a septum because it's not just reducing it, it's also about building that new nose. And that's how you get the nice results and avoid those fake appearances that we classically see.